It's a life sentence. I literally didn't have a. I didn't know where my hammer was, so I used a gavel or a spoon. But anyway, this is budgeting. Also, it's hot, so we're not with my usual uniform. Anyway, this first story, I'm going to give you a summarized version. The official and the longer version is on this side, so you can read it if you would so like to. Essentially, what I got from this is that they explain that in the US there is a tipping system. It's like a very known culture. And he explained, or they explain, they're a regular at said restaurant, and this person who was attending to him, a server, didn't look experienced. And they mentioned a lot of the techniques that they were carrying certain trays and handling certain items in a way that looked inexperienced. And they mentioned that, hey, you were holding it like weird, that it was a little tilted because they're probably a server themselves, or they've seen servers how they carry the trays. And then they go on to explain that they ordered a certain dish that required dressing, and said dressing spilled a tiny bit on this person's shirt, and they didn't address it, but it obviously bothered them. They also note that they typically are known for tipping really well, like what, 20 to 30%, as they listed themselves. And they went on to tip this waiter a quarter because they were displeased with the service that they received in this occasion. It had nothing to do with the restaurant itself, but rather this person and how they were handling this table and this client. they they also mentioned that their wife was upset with them due to the due to them tipping a quarter. And I think that's the reason why they even brought it up to begin with, because I feel like they didn't think it was wrong, but obviously a quarter. Okay, I I would retake it, but like this seems so silly to me in such a way that I can't describe. And I know if I retell it, I will keep putting in my input. I'm gonna try my best when I am summarizing stories to not put in my input as much, but like some things are just so. Anyway, I generally think that he is the jerk. Why? I forgot it. I'm all over the place. Am I the jerk for not tipping a waitress because of a couple accidents she had? Said accidents were two that he listed. I mean, that they listed. I keep saying he on accident. It's an accident. Anyway, he. There we go again. They mention two accidents, or yeah, two accidents that like. Okay, I'm rereading it again. Apparently, the Coke, when they were carrying the tray, fell on them a little bit, and I mean, they looked like they felt remorse for it because they mentioned, oh, hey, they were mortified because they dropped it on me. And then they brought him napkins because the client, our protagonist in this instance, tells him, hey, can you bring me something to dry myself off? You know what I mean? This is I have experience in this field, believe it or not, because I once upon a time used to work in a restaurant like this, and I've seen servers, and I know the stories, I know behind the scenes, whatever. It's just okay. I think they are the jerk because a quarter, like, if you didn't find the service that satisfying, or if you didn't like it at all, then you shouldn't have tipped, because that is more like a, how do I describe this? This is more insulting than not tipping, because there's instances where people do not tip, like, and they order like a ton, right? And but they don't tip because, like, who knows? Point is, like, that's more something people are more used to, and they're like, okay, well, they didn't tip, well, anyway. But then, like, if you tip a quarter, it's so much different, because it's like, what? Why did you go out of your way to give me a coin that will essentially get me nothing but maybe a gum, if the machine is of 1/4 rather than 2, as most usually are? I think it's just so bad, because okay, I'm gonna give my own experience. I have gone to a restaurant as a client before, and I have had a server accidentally spill hot soup on me, and I didn't think it was a big deal. I wasn't like, oh my god, it's the end of the world, tip him horribly. Like, obviously, if it's because he was carrying one plate, like this, right? I mean, if it's one plate, you're obviously not gonna take the whole tray. Like, oh well, I'm gonna take all of this just for a soup. Like, again, it was an accident. They didn't mean to. It's been a rough night, and as they mentioned, they were inexperienced. They were probably new. They probably felt it was bad, and they didn't know what to do. They were like, "Oh, okay, what's the drill in this occasion? Like, how would I help them? How would I go about this? You know?" And I have, like, heard some servers, like, when accidents like that happen, they're like, "Oh, they probably shouldn't have even tipped me. I feel really bad because I forgot this or I did this." Like, it's not like they're purposely wanting to hurt you. It's like it was an accident, you know? And that, at least if you thought it was not that good and you like to explain that you tip really well most occasionally, then just tip them $1 at the most, you know? But a quarter, it just feels like such a spit in the face, because, like, you're just rubbing it in at that point, like, oh, you're so horrible at what you're doing. That's what it feels like. Because, like, what was the necessity? A lot of servers, especially in the US, need tipping in order to make a good check, because a lot of the checks aren't going to be as livable without tips. And if you hurt their tips, then it's a little more complicated if you hurt the tips, especially for waiters. And keep in mind that, okay, I'm gonna explain this. I'm gonna go behind the scenes. When servers get tipped, like, you leave it on the table, like, oh, you were great, I'll leave you a 10. Those 10 are not for them. Those 10 get distributed against everyone: the person who cleaned your table, the person who walked you to the table, I believe, and then the server himself. So it's like 3 divisions there. And I think there's a 4th one, but I'm not sure, depending on the restaurant. So, again, a quarter, I mean, yeah, you're pretty, yeah, you're a jerk. Like, you just could have not tipped if you felt that it was that bad. And I personally would have tipped at least like 1 or 2. Like, I get it, accidents happen, especially when you're inexperienced and you don't know what you're doing. Like, I get it, you know, there was no need to be so like that. you didn't have to. Okay, for the next story, it's, am I the jerk for taking 2 of my nephews on vacation with me but not the other? So this story is about our protagonist, 36M, child free, as I mentioned. They have 2 siblings. So one sibling has 2 sons, 9 and 7, and the other one has a boy and a girl, 8 and 1. But we're only going to be focusing on the 3 boys here. So anyway, this person mentions that they're taking care of the 3 children for a weekend. And then they're having a great time, they're all, oh yeah, that's awesome, da, 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 da. But then one of the boys of the one sibling, the 8-year-old boy, is acting up, and he says, I have waffles on the weekend. He's throwing a tantrum, essentially, how some kids are. They're throwing a tantrum. They're like, oh, well, I'm not used to eating this on certain days. And then they went on to rip up the protagonist's clothes, and they're being destructive. They're being a menace. They're being annoying. Like, they need a stern talking to. Essentially, they're a devil. From that point on, they're like, oh, well,
what is wrong with the kid? Why are they acting up?
And the parent of said kid responds with, oh, he is just high-spirited. They excuse the behavior with saying he is just extroverted. The protagonist then decides, well, I didn't like this behavior, and I don't think I should be rewarding bad behavior, so I'm just gonna take the other 2 kids to vacation with me, and this one can stay behind because they don't deserve it. So anyway, I don't think this person is a jerk. I don't think so, because if they're throwing tantrums and their parent defends these tantrums with they're high-spirited, which I interpret as extroverted. What does that say about the parent? I know most often than not, we should not judge parents based on the actions of their children, but this is a kid. They're still in the single digit, so I feel like you could still judge based upon their actions, because more often than not, when you have certain parents who are, I would argue, stricter, you don't have kids throwing tantrums and ripping up shirts and saying, I don't like cereal, and that, this whole mess about dietary options that are not necessarily that groundbreaking, you know what I mean? So it would make sense for him to argue, like, I can't eat this meat because I am vegan and I'm from a vegan family, da 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 da. You know what the drill? But, like, if you're arguing because of, like, cereal, and they're just offering you food and you're complaining, you're throwing this whole mess, you need some adjusting, you need some talking to, you need something to fix that. And then the protagonist then explains, my parents and family members are upset with me because I'm not taking this kid who threw a tantrum. Why? See, this is what I don't like, because you don't give in to the bad actions of a certain family member. Like, you're not giving in, you're like, okay, I'm just not going to put up with it because I don't like this behavior and I'm not going to put up with it. You know what I mean? And then they're like, but they're blood related, so you gotta give in and give them their way in and make sure to include them and everything. No. No. I understand that there's a child, but again, they're child free. They're not used to kids. They don't want kids, from what I understand. So why would they have to put up with that? And secondly, they don't have to include them because they're not their kid. And it's not favoritism, it's just that understanding, hey, this is poor behavior on your behalf, so you're just not going to get included because this is behavior that should not be rewarded. I also feel like the parent of said kid should have a talking to them, like, this was bad on your part. You need to correct this. We will work together in order to correct your behavior. And no, correct, I do not mean like, I mean more like, let's talk and better express when we don't like things. Like, hey, I don't like the cereal. Okay, awesome. We will find another cereal that you like, but do not destroy property. I don't think he's a jerk. I do not. Okay. So essentially, our protagonist is a person who is infertile. My apologies if I don't know the word, but it's a word now. So anyway, they mentioned that their husband has a best friend that he's known since high school, and that they're inseparable. Key part. So her and her husband are struggling with having a child fertility issues, essentially. So they're saving up money for IVF. That is what we're going to put in the definition. And it is a program where I'm assuming it helps them get a child, and it is extremely expensive from what I've heard, and so on and so forth. They explained that they have 11,000 saved up in money in order for this program to help them with fertility and getting a child. And their husband put 2,000 to 3,000. Very important point. They say last week they had found out, well, last week their time, they had found out that their husband secretly pulled out 7K from the savings, the 11,000, and they reacted shocked, like, hey, why is it missing? And they confronted him about it, and he just casually noted about it, like, hey, so I let my friend borrow 7,000 because they have a really beaten up old car, and I wanted him to have a better car, so don't worry about it, he's gonna pay us back, it's fine, it's just 7,000, they'll pay it back, they're just gonna get a new car, and so on and so forth. The protagonist reacts negatively, they're upset by this, they're like, hey, that is majority of my money that I put down, this is for our savings in order to have a child, and you just gave out 7,000 just like that. And then their spouse argues, hey, the fertility issue is actually your issue because you're the one who's infertile, and it's a one-sided problem is what they're saying. And and the protagonist gets more upset, and they go on to call the friend. They're like, hey, return the money or I'm getting the police involved, and I don't think this is right, you shouldn't have the money, return it immediately. So the friend returns it, and the husband gets extremely upset. They're like, hey, why would you do that, like, they're gonna pay it back, and then they get upset, and then they go to stay with their friend. I don't think this person is a jerk. I really don't think so. I don't think so because 7,000 is a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot of money. I don't care how you want to put it, and it's even more when you think about the fact that, like, she put in so much of that. Like, she has more than 75% put it into those savings, and he just took without telling her. Like, I remember how I said secretly. Yeah, he didn't tell her. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not okay. And no matter how you look at it, and especially since it's something that is so important to your spouse that you're just gonna be like, don't even worry about it, this is whatever. Like, it's not whatever, because you just can't, no matter how close you are to someone, how do you determine that they're going to pay you back? Like, if they themselves did not have those 7,000, what makes you think that they're going to be like, I abruptly have 7,000 that I can pay you back? What if they wanted to test out the program of the child, like, next month, next week or something, and they're like, where's the money that I had saved for the program? Like, where'd it go? Like, that's a lot of money gone. And then you didn't even try to communicate with them, like, hey, can I borrow some money, and I will make sure that it is returned to this fund that we're making so you can have a child that you've been trying to have. it's just, it's inappropriate to do. It's irrespectful. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful. It is rude. It is cruel. It's even worse when you think about the fact that they made it like a one-sided problem. Like, hey, you're the crazy one for reacting a certain way. Like, no. Like, I understand they're your best friend and all, and you would die hard for whatever, your friend. It's just that, like, it is not yours to give. I understand that in marriage and so on and so forth, you guys share everything, distribute goods like this, y'all like this, alright, whatever. But like, no. No. Because this could have meant so much to them, and you just, no, I don't think so. Like, who are you to be doing that? I know you could argue he's a husband, whatever, etc. I don't care. You just can't be taking stuff from people like that. It doesn't matter. And then a car. If you have a car and it's working, that's all you should care about. Like, it's just dumb and inconsiderate on his behalf. I do not think they're the jerk. They should probably, I would say divorce, but like, give him like one more chance, and then from that point on, no more. Just be like, get out of here. Like, because I know people say things when they're angry, and they say things they don't mean and all of that, but like, you crossed the line. Get out. No, they're not the jerk. Bye-bye. And that has been all. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these. Obviously you guys can't tell yet, but I have so many videos in advance. So to me it's been a while since I recorded these. And I hope you guys enjoyed. What do YouTubers say? Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what you would do in the waiter situation. I would have given back their quarter. I would have been like, I don't need this. Or maybe you do, because laundry, you use quarters in laundry. But like, a quarter's, nah, never mind. Because then a quarter's not even, yeah, a quarter's not even gonna do anything. You have one washer, but like you need 175. You still need the 150. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.